Welcome to the 9th episode of Sam and Voy reviewing Sam's code and his journey of becoming software developer. And yet again, just like last time today, we're not actually looking at code. We're going to be looking at applying for a job. Last time we had a look at CVs and we looked at how we could improve Sam's CV. Today, we're going to be looking at how to write a cover letter. So it's an interesting topic that I think a lot of people will just skip over, and it's very easy to kind of fall into the trap of just sending a copy paste to every single employer, trying to tell them, hey, we're great, we're amazing, please hire us. And that's kind of it. So we will go and look up a couple of jobs on StackOverflow. We'll go through a bit of the process of searching for jobs in the first place. And once we find them, we'll go through the job postings themselves and try to scrape as much information as possible and turn them into some valuable kind of keywords that we could be using when we are applying for the job, when we're sending that cover letter. And we'll talk about the process of, first of all, gathering the data and then turning that data into some meaningful content that we can send over to the potential employers. So yeah, this is the second video regarding the job application process and kind of prepping yourself for it. So if you happen to be in a situation where you're about to apply for some programming jobs, we hope you find this video useful. So as always, hope you're gonna enjoy it.
Welcome to the 9th episode of Sam and Voy do Sam's coding journey.
Welcome. How are you doing, Sam?
I'm doing all right, mate. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, enjoying your gallon of coffee?
It is quite
the size of that mug.
I know. I hate the tiny little cups, that make you feel back in the Victorian times. I normally try to go with a bigger one. So we found some of these in our Chinese store around here.
How to become a power coder. There's the secret, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, it is tea, let's be honest. I don't do that much coffee. Okay. Yeah, it is just tea.
Fair enough. But hydration's still also important.
Totally.
Keep the brain hydrated for hours of coding.
That's what it is. Indeed.
How are you anyway, mate?
Oh, I'm good. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, well, I'm in charge today. No.
Good. The raining season's almost over, so enjoying the last months of that, I suppose. Yeah, coding away, cracking on, learning.
Well, I think rainy season is starting here.
Starting there, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's very grim and grey today, very English.
God.
But other than that, yeah, doing good, thanks, mate. Yeah, ready for the next stage of our coding journey. I say our because you've been a very big part of it, mate. So it's almost like you're in this with me now. Totally.
Yeah.
Equipo.
Yeah. So last time we spoke about your CV and did a bit of a review on that. Today we said we will go into looking at cover letters, right? Mm-hmm. So preparing for the journey of job applications. We want to make sure that both the CV works well, but also that when it comes to writing the cover letters, that we know what to put in that.
Cool.
Yeah. So. Yeah, cover letters in general, I think it's a subject, that I wanted to cover in a separate video due to the fact that it's often neglected, but I feel that it's a great opportunity to actually distinguish yourself from maybe some of the other applicants. And that can be more significant than it may seem. It's very, common for us to sort of just neglect it and go with like a generic copy paste. I would like to work for your company because, and then list things that I'm good at and things I would like, which essentially is like translating your own CV into just written text. Well, they can figure out what you do and what you know from the CV itself. So by just copy pasting a generic one, it's easy to fall into this trap of, well, no one is going to read it. And furthermore, no extra information will come from you to the potential employer, which is essentially what, the cover letter the function that the cover letter could serve for you, right? So what I wanted to talk to you about today is essentially how to harness the power of cover letters and how to exploit them to your advantage to be able to say those few extra things that don't really belong to the CV, but if you wish you could say to the recruiter when applying for a position, right? I suppose, yeah, it'll be a bit of back and forth because I'm sure you have some, thoughts about that too. Like I was saying before in the CV video, this is not by no means professional, recruitment advice. This is merely me having a sort of gut feeling about, job applications and how it actually worked for me. So yeah, if there could be anything being added, I'm sure there is. And, to anybody listening, feel free to, add any extra thoughts or comment on any things that we're saying right here. But simply what I wanted to do with you, Sam, is to go over this process of essentially scraping the information from the job postings, turning that into some kind of, formatted document that then you can use to build cover letters from. And then kind of how to make that information reusable. So it's not that for each application you have to custom write everything. It's more about turning it into those reusable chunks that then you can kind of copy paste from. And the more applications you make, the easier each subsequent cover letter will become. Right? That's my thinking.
Sounds cool. Yeah, it's almost like modular.
Indeed, it really is. Because if you think about it, if you would have a chance to look through a number of job postings, I don't know if you already did, start even looking at job postings yourself, but the questions start to repeat. There is a pattern. Maybe the way they would phrase it would be a little bit different, but you'll notice that there's a lot of things you can at least have a template for and just kind of start filling in, and more often than not, you can just copy paste the entire answer. So that's kind of one part of it, to have this sort of database of answers that they can start bringing in. But at the same time, big part of it is to understand what really the company is looking for and trying to underline why you're the right choice. I think that's what we're going to focus on primarily today. Yeah.
Awesome.
If you have any comments on that by this stage, Sam?
No, I just I like the approach of having, making it reusable, because I guess, the job hunting process can be quite daunting and long. So anything that makes that more manageable,
essentially.
I'm so yeah,
cool. Nice, decent,
wicked,
good. So kicking off, we could go to somewhere like StackOverflow or some of the other websites where we can, look for jobs, maybe try to find a listing or two, and essentially go through the process of how I would approach picking up a job posting, turning that into a document, and what information we want to be extracting from there. What's that sort of extra bits that we could be able to scrape from there?
Cool. Yeah, sounds cool. Yeah, let's do it.
Here we are. Given that you're going to be looking for jobs, let's find a hypothetical job that you could be potentially looking at and try to go through that. Obviously, the application process will kind of vary depending on whether you're looking for a junior, for a mid, for a senior, what kind of company is it, what language, what frameworks, what technology you're going to be working with, what industry it is. There's, quite a lot of these extra bits that I want to take into consideration. But I think the advice that I want to give is more or less applicable across the board. So if we go with looking for tech you like, I'm, by the way, in Stack Overflow jobs, going to go for JavaScript. And we'll look for junior developer. Okay, and there is a plenty of jobs we could be looking at. So essentially, how about we open a few of these? Yes, we're still hiring. This obviously is recorded a few months after the coronavirus outbreak, which explains the naming.
I didn't even tweak that.
Yeah, when it comes to looking for some of these jobs, actually, I try to make my searches relatively broad at the beginning. So not, work through things like compensation, perks. You can specify what role you may be doing, whether it's full-time or not. Simply because the way that these kind of search engines sometimes would work is that if somebody didn't take a particular box or did not apply for a particular, filter, you could be missing out on some jobs. So, specify the smallest amount of information you can, but don't make it too specific, and simply do the filtering yourself as you go through. It's true that will be a little bit more time taking, but like I say, just from experience, looking for various things, the same advice applies to other search engines. Like when I'm looking for hotels on booking.com, I'm trying to still keep my filters as non-specific as possible, just because some hotels will simply not understand that, if they offer, I don't know, single rooms, they have to tick something to make it single rooms. So there's a lot of that information that could, be left behind if you make too much of a filter down. It's often safer to just do the minimum filter you would like, and just kind of go from there and do the actual filtering yourself.
Good point. Yeah, because that's the opposite of what I probably would have done.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. So possibly, one piece of advice here, starting with job applications is when searching, try to keep these filters broad enough so that more companies will appear here. Because you never know, often things wouldn't be phrased as you think they would be, but they still would apply to what you're looking for in this particular case. Or maybe just simply your understanding of what particular phrase or technology or particular keyword means, could be not aligned with how somebody else would understand it. And there you'd, again, miss some information, right? So also some postings, essentially. So yeah, keeping it relatively open and just doing the filtering down yourself is probably better approach to finding jobs. Given that there isn't that many of them anyway, it's not a big hustle, I suppose. So yeah, that's kind of what I would start from. Okay, so maybe starting, let's see, which one should we pick as our first candidate? We ideally want to look at something that is close to what you do. So JavaScript, ideally. This one seems to be a little bit broader than that. Yeah, so maybe not this one. Front-end React developer. Yeah, that's more specific, isn't it? Yeah, this one's good. Okay, so that's a good one. That's reasonable. Graduate full stack developer. Right, so full stack would be a little bit broader than what you're doing, right? Speaking about also doing back end. Yeah.
So would that even be like worth considering, knowing that I haven't done much any back end yet, or is that kind of how junior positions work? Sometimes is you can come in as a junior and learn it on the job. Like, what's the general vibes with that?
Frankly, mate, I wouldn't know what to answer here. I think I would not if I don't have any back-end experience. I probably would avoid that. Because when I approached searching for web development jobs, I was already a full stack developer myself. Very, I had a broad understanding of a number of things outside of web development as well, which allowed me to sort of tick more of these boxes, I would say. If you have no experience with backend, I would probably say that it's safer to just stick to the front-end development jobs rather than full stack. But that's just my gut feeling, I would say. Maybe going for that would be good too, because arguably, any developer can pick up on something, and understanding JavaScript is a basic requirement to get into some junior backend development, right? So yeah, no easy answer, unfortunately, for this one.
Yeah. And I was just curious more than anything. Oh, they've got a beer fridge.
Beer fridge, that's one thing that stood out to me.
Yeah, we'll pay you $6,000 less, but we've got a beer fridge.
Class. Right, so let's skip on this one. That one speaks more of being a front-end engineer. JavaScript, React, Angular, Node. Okay, yeah, I think we could go through these two to start with.
Yeah, cool.
If they don't work out, we can go through some other ones.
Yeah.
Perfect. Right, so as we go through this, so we've got a couple of jobs that we'll be looking at. Front-end engineer, front-end React developer. Both of them accepting junior mid-level. So obviously there's a number of ways of approaching this. You probably want to skim over like the job posting and like get just the gist of, what are they looking for? Is the technology even applicable to what you think they were advertising for? So if you see more keywords like CSS, Webpack, JavaScript, React, whatever, you're on the right path. So just giving a quick look through it is a good way to start, I suppose, understanding this kind of a job posting. Stack Overflow essentially has a good number of additional information about the company itself, describing sort of their culture. Some companies would even have like a video showcasing how things are rolling in their company, which I think is pretty neat. To be able to understand more about culture itself and how things are being run inside of it is good. Bearing in mind that a lot of this is simply written text that may or may not turn out true. Obviously, not saying that in case of this particular company we're reviewing right now, but it's important to also understand that with a bit of grain of salt, and maybe any doubts that may appear during reviewing a job posting would be good to bring up during the interview and dig into some of these things that you may have doubts about. For instance, if you're, I don't know, interested in doing agile, if maybe it's mentioned here, but it's not clear enough for you, then probably bring it up later to see how far the company actually goes in agile development, to be able to understand whether they truly do it or whether they just would claim that they do it, which often happens and they don't really. An interesting quote from the guy who come up with Scrum, I think. He does consulting for various companies, and he said that he's seen thousands of companies doing Scrum or doing Agile, and he has not yet seen one that actually does it correctly. Because arguably, it's such a flexible framework that everybody does it their way and methodology, right? Everybody does it their way, and it's arguable whether, if you don't do it right, whether it's even worth doing or whatnot. So having these kind of things in your mind when you're reviewing a job posting, I think is good to ask yourself, okay, what is it that I'll be looking for from the company? I think too often we look at just simply what is expected of you and what you have to match. I understand that being a junior developer, kind of entry-level person, maybe even more sort of daunting to start having requirements of your own. Very often you just think, okay, I just want to get my foot in through the door, which is also a fine way to look at these things, right? But maybe a piece of advice that I would leave at this stage is to also try to understand, okay, are they doing the type of development that I like? Are they building apps that I would find interesting, or is this just a job that I'll be a code monkey and I'll be a cog and I may not enjoy it as much as I thought I would, right? So these kind of questions I think are important, but also very importantly, this kind of information will be very relevant later, and we'll get back to it later. But the reason that it's good to see something about the company itself is essential for something we're going to do in just a short while. So I'll come back to that in just a while. Okay, so if we want to start by looking at this job posting in particular, what are they actually looking for? They're looking for a front-end React developer, right? So basic information we know that we need to be capable of doing JavaScript and we have to be capable of doing React. Yeah, probably one thing I want to mention as well at some point is that, well, I have not been looking for a job since a few years ago. So some of the information I have and I know of is outdated. Nonetheless, yeah, like I've mentioned a number of times before, it helped me, it helped some of my friends. So if there are things that I'm out of date on, then definitely, if you know how to correct me. Otherwise, to any of you listening us talk, make sure to leave a comment, and we'd love to find out more about how things look like these days. Your responsibilities. So I'm going to just skim through this. I don't think we want to be reading the entire thing, but you will be participating in delivering best software possible. Okay. Learn about the customer needs. Okay, what do they mean by that? That's interesting. The moment they start writing things like this, it's like, how would I be learning about the customer needs? Does that mean I'm going to be closer to the customers themselves? Would I be speaking to the customers? There be a dedicated person for doing that? You want to ask yourself, why are they listing things like that from the beginning, right? You work directly with our UX UI designers, so that's interesting. There will be a dedicated person or people to the UX and UI and bring their designs to life. You will try to deliver the best possible experience. Okay, again, sounds a little bit more generic. Build features with a you build it, you run it mindset. You are responsible for testing, deployment, monitoring your code. This is very interesting, actually. This statement alone tells you what kind of responsibility culture they have in the company. So there probably is a good number of them, but the two ones that we can think about straight away are the two polar opposites, is either everybody's responsible for everyone, or each person is responsible for a particular subset of the repository of the data, code base that we have. So in this case, they say you build it, you run it, meaning that, okay, the code you will build, you will be responsible for, and being able to test it, deploy it, monitor it in the future. If it was the other way around, the concept would be that each developer would be expected to sort of have some understanding about any code, and it wouldn't be that a particular bug would be assigned necessarily to the owner or the author of the particular piece of code. These kind of models would promote sort of anybody picking any bug and trying to understand the code they'll be looking into. So that, essentially, you're preventing situations in which if somebody leaves or if somebody is ill, you aren't left in a situation where nobody can fix or nobody actually understands that piece of code, right? I don't think I know enough to argue either of these models, but I've worked with both of these methodologies before. So it's interesting to kind of be able to read that out straight away from the beginning, right? So that was about the responsibilities. Like I say, quite generic, but we got some interesting information coming out of it. And then the profile. Knowledge of JavaScript, especially React, good. Experience with testing and bundling of JavaScript code. That's good information as well. You treat CSS as a first-class citizen, right? And have deep knowledge in CSS frameworks, for instance, Bootstrap or preprocessors, for instance, Sass. Okay, so this is good information for us as well. You've done Sass, you've done Bootstrap, so that's good. You have been a part of Agile development teams. So here they speak about Agile development and experience with collaborating with the UX and UI. Okay, also very key. You favor open communication, constant feedback, and short decision paths. Very interesting. Almost sounds like a separate subpoint for me. Something, like I say, we will be able to utilize in a little while. You have a never stop learning attitude and desire to develop and grow. Again, very interesting. And you are fluent in English. Well, that's going to be a hard one for you, Sam, but we'll do our best. Our profile. So they talk about themselves. Dynamic team in Munich. So I suppose this is not a remote job. This will require, moving to Munich. We strive to make Alaska big and transform the construction industry. Okay, keyword. So they are working in construction. I bet that if we read it over here, we could find out. But they've got here construction, real estate, and SaaS business. We live a culture of trust and personal responsibility. Every idea, every opinion is welcome. So these kind of claims you will hear from just about every company. And it's great when they do it. It's incredible when it actually turns out true. Like I say, once again, we just happen to be reviewing this particular company, Alaska. I hope that if anybody from Alaska ever sees this video, then you don't mind us doing this. But I'll just use it as a sort of use case. So do apologize if we point out any negatives. But what I'm trying to say here is that often these kind of statements will be just statements and there will be empty words. Like I say, impossible to know whether these guys do it or not, but take something like that with a grain of salt. This is type of information I would like to be figuring out more in depth when I'm going to interviews to really understand whether they respect, contributions. You being a junior developer, of course, you will not be, suggesting to change the entire code base, but more often than not, companies fall into traps of being very sort of top-down, sort of hierarchical, and having developers just, execute sort of monkey tasks, fixing bugs and putting fires away, whilst some others will get to do the quote-unquote cool stuff. So and there will be very little chain to kind of to communicate from bottom up for a junior developer to be able to bring up an idea or introduce something new to the company. Therefore, a statement like that, take it with a grain of salt. I would say, like I said before, a lot of companies will say that, and it's piece of information I would definitely be verifying when talking to the people, or within the first weeks of working there, trying to understand what the reality is, right? Personal development and of our employees is close to our hearts. We support seminars, nice, and the purchase of new learning material for our employees, good. Also very interesting information for later, but it's good to know they do that. Exchange of opinions between our employees is key. So almost same statement as over here. Once again, I won't be repeating myself, but interesting thing to verify later. We value joint launches and team activities. Perfect. We love and live the agile work environment. Ooh, so here they are underlining it. Agile. This is what we do. Okay. So another key thing that could be worth figuring out later when we speak to them. We work as a Scrum team with open boards, and there'll be an A, wouldn't it?
Probably and, yeah.
Yeah. And regular retros and daily stand-ups. We believe in DevOps, continuous integration and testing. Okay, so that's interesting. All interesting to know. Key information we'll be looking at later. And finally, there is a nice video from the guys. I bet these guys are the owners, so they look very friendly, very nice, sitting on a rooftop somewhere in Munich. So it's nice to get a little bit of an introduction into the company. These kind of videos are always welcome. And finally, we can get to reading a bit more about them. So without essentially reading the entirety of it, what keywords can we find here? It's digitalize the process in construction planning, cool, and execution by offering cloud-based workflow platform. Okay, so it's a cloud-based software they develop. Okay, interesting. They're from Munich, entrepreneurs, real estate. So they obviously are in real estate indeed. improving the way of constructing. Okay, almost sounds like a ad. Do you want to accompany young software company in its early stages? Okay, so they still claim they're quite early on. That seems to be related to what they say right here. Small team. They also did mention they're a Scrum team. I wouldn't know if I should understand as there is just one Scrum team or there are multiple ones, but that's interesting. Do join our case and apply now. We are a dynamic team with great ambitions at heart. Munich. Okay, we strive to make it big. We live a culture of trust and personal responsibility. Isn't it literally what they said before?
Bit of a copy, yeah.
Yeah, or am I reading this again for some reason? Right, every opinion is welcome. Yeah, they did say it's somewhere here, yeah, essentially.
Yeah, a lot of it.
Yeah, we exchange opinions. Yeah, this is just a copy paste, so won't get into that. Finally, benefits, perfect. Up to 2,000 foundation support for learning materials and seminars. Nice, good to know. Stock options, open office space, flexible working hours, joint team lunches, paid relocation and visa sponsorship. Possibility to shape Alaska with your own ideas. Again, underlining this as a thing that a lot of people will tell you, not necessarily true for all of them, but it's good. It's good to at least have it have it written down and maybe verify later. And just information about their office. Finally, there is this thing called the Joel test. It's so I don't actually know much about it, but from what I understand, it's like a way companies can sort of answer a number of these questions and see what they fit, what kind of requirements they fit. So it's like a standardized way to screen, I would say, software development companies. I don't know if it's just for software development though, but I think it is mainly for software development, given that they're talking about like testers and code screening and stuff like that. So essentially, it's a way for a company to say, do you do the things that people could expect? And they listed down these things such as, do you use source control, one-step builds, daily builds? Do you have a database for bugs? Are bugs being fixed before writing new code? The more you read into this, the more you start to ask yourself, is that the company culture there? Is that what they're really doing, right? Up-to-date schedule, specs, quiet working conditions, best tools that money can buy, yada, yada, yada. If we probably Google that, we will find more information from where does that come from. Joel on software. There we go. Have you seen this face before?
No.
Okay, interesting blog. Yeah, worth catching up on. So this is the test that he obviously wrote, and now has been also answered by a number of companies as you apply for
that's cool.
for them. Yeah, so interesting to kind of get into and read into a bit more.
I'll have a look at that.
Definitely. Right, and actually you can even ping or see what the couple of developers that seem to be working at Alaska on this particular job seem to be doing. So, maybe even worth going in there, seeing what questions they engage in and what's the sort of, problems they're running into. Obviously, it's not straightforward. It's not, one-to-one relationship with the company, but could give you at least a little bit of information there. And obviously, on other pages, you will find different information. This is just Stack Overflow. So I'm doing this kind of, overview of this particular job posting, but it will differ and it will vary. Not everywhere you'll find as much information. I think Stack Overflow jobs are generally one of the better sources of jobs, just because of how detailed these jobs tends to be, I think. But yeah. Does that make sense? Any questions until this point?
No. Already picked up some great tips. I think the thing that jumps out initially is how detailed these listings are. Obviously, because we're in a full software environment, whereas I've only really sort of dabbled with LinkedIn before, which covers, every industry ever. So it's quite cool. Yeah, how much you can fathom about the company and the listing before you even apply. Well, I think that's pretty cool. And like you say, it's useful information for us. Totally.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, I believe if you do go ahead and apply, you may find more information along with it. So this particular one, it will take you to a separate link. I think there's a way to apply for some jobs at least through Stack Overflow itself. So there'll be like a separate form right here. These guys obviously send it through to their website. And right here, we could probably find more information about that same position. Or it's just probably a copy of what we've seen before. And always worth going to the apply for the position in case they would add a little bit of extra information here. And this is exactly what we see here. So they get to ask us questions. And these are the key questions we're going to be looking at as well. Describe websites which in your eyes have good UI, UX, and why. Interesting question, isn't it? So it's not just about providing your email address and phone number and resume, certificates, whatnot. Frequently, you'd find these kind of questions being asked when applying for a job position. And these are very useful spaces for you to kind of expand on, again, why are you the right candidate for it? So don't read these questions as a way of just kind of, sort of ticking a box, why do you want to join our product and engineering team? Because I want to make money and I want to work as a software developer is an answer, but it may not be the right answer, right? Look at these questions as potential paths for you to inject even more information that will separate you from everybody else, as long as it's relevant, obviously, to what they're asking for. So the more of these kind of answers you can answer, the more of these questions you can answer in a way that will kind of underline and highlight your experience, your position, what you do know and how you are different from others, the better, right? It's not just about, giving a short, honest answer. It's about getting into a little bit more details. The questions themselves can be more or less detailed. I frequently found questions along the lines of describe the project you're the proudest of, or describe the most difficult project you worked on, where you can actually get into saying why things were difficult or why things went well, and how did it go and how you fixed some of the problems along the lines and all that. So it's an interesting platform to kind of just, once again, highlight and underline what you're good at and why do you think you're good at these things. So looking for these questions, a good way to sort of, introduce yourself to the company. But now we're imagining, what if there was a company that did never provide you with these questions? And here is I think the core piece of advice that I want to give is that it's good to ask yourself these questions, even though they haven't asked them. So imagining that this particular job posting never had these fields, we would still want to write to them as if they were writing these questions. And the key knowledge that I want to pass on today is how to find these questions and how to phrase them ourselves. Because when they specify things like that, it's because obviously they care for it. So it's another piece of good information that they care about UI and UX. But if we didn't have that information, we would want to try to figure out what is it that this company could be caring about and talk about that. And exactly for me, this is what information should be put inside of the cover letter. Cover letter is not placed to say, I'm good, hire me. In my opinion, at least. I don't think it's a way, it's just a copy pasting template. To me, a cover letter is a place where I exactly will answer questions that have never been asked, but that I know that if I were to be asked, I could distinguish myself from the others. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, yeah. And what's interesting for me is that when you click apply on there was two other options that wouldn't have taken you to their website. So it's almost like doing it the lazy way with like a one-click apply. You miss that extra step of where those questions are, which, yes, it's more work, but you can find more information about what they're looking for in a position. And like you say, you can, what did you say? Inject more information to separate you from the others. Yeah.
I'm glad you got that, because that's essentially the core of this principle. Yeah. So the process of going through a job posting and the information we can find on a particular company, we can call sort of almost scraping, right? We'll go through this and try to scrape as much information as we can in order to, be able to ask the questions that never been, answer the questions that have never been asked. Right? Like I say, ignore for the time being that this particular company is nice and they've prepared some questions for us. We're going to assume they haven't. We're going to assume the only thing we have is resume, certificates, and then submit application. How can we stand out applying for a job for Alaska, knowing that we already want to do it? Because it seems like a actually pretty relevant job in all fairness to the skill that you have, right? So to do that, I'm going to create a short Google Doc, and I'll start actually doing the scraping process, and I'll show you what that consists of. yeah, and we'll just kind of go from there.
Yeah, cool.
Right. So I put together a short document called Job Applications, JavaScript React, and I copied the name of the company and the position I'm going to be applying for. And now I will go through this, and all these keywords that I've been highlighting, I'm going to just go ahead and start copy pasting them over there without thinking too much about whether they're relevant or not, because once we do the copying, I'm going to sort them by priority and by what I think actually is relevant. So for now, I just want to scrape as much information as I can. So cloud platform, they seem to be doing cloud work right there. Actively participate in delivering best software possible, yada, yada, yada. Learn about customers' needs. Why not? You work directly with the UI and UX designers. Interesting. Okay, if they repeat themselves about UI, for instance, I will not get into it. Okay. You build it, you run mindset. Yeah, we spoke about that. Knowledge of JavaScript, obviously, and React. We almost can put it on that same line.
So if you've got testing and deployment under you build it, you run it. They also, or have you just included that as part of you build it, you run it?
Right. So I wouldn't say this is an exhaustive list of what you build it, you run it will encapsulate. They're just essentially saying whatever it has to do with the code that you're working with, you will be responsible for it. And here they're just kind of trying to say, the beginning, the middle, and the end of it.
Gotcha.
Whether, how much of testing and deployment and monitoring there will be, deployment, obviously, how much any of that they will be actually doing in the end isn't actually even conveyed over here. So I wouldn't scrape it from over here. But quite in fact, they do speak about testing right here. So I'm going to bring it back just like you suggest. Yeah. But it's more about the you build it, you run is about you encompass the entirety of code responsibility down to a single person. So CSS frameworks such as Bootstrap, preprocessors such as SAS, Agile development team, experience with collaboration. Right, so essentially what I'm looking for is any things that I think I could potentially say something about, or I think that I would benefit from saying something about. So it may be that I don't even have experience in some of these fields, but I'll be looking for ways I can rephrase things to be able to answer these questions that they haven't asked, right? So once again, the principle of doing this is we're extracting these keywords because we will be wanting to talk about them in a short while, right? Therefore, I'm just trying to get as much information as I can over here to be able to then be able to come up with some sort of these questions that were never asked, as I keep on calling them, right? You favor open communication, constant feedback, and short decisions paths. Wonderful. Right? For non-native English speakers, we could add a little bit on that. For instance, in my case, I've lived in the UK for 7 years, so that would be a good way for me to underline that I am indeed relatively fluent in English. Right. Now, our profile. And see, this is where we get into the bits that I was mentioning before that will become useful, because it's easy to extract, Bootstrap, CSS, React, UX, UI from here, because these are clear keywords. But how do you find keywords when looking for more? And that's what we're going to get into right now. So yeah, they speak about culture of trust and personal responsibility. Every idea, every opinion is welcome. Okay. Yeah, so this is interesting as well. This whole point, indeed, we could talk about. And this. And even further now, Alaska itself. So construction planning, yeah, they work in construction. Let's talk about that. Once again, cloud-based workflow platform. Okay, driven by making real estate available to society. Interesting. So obviously they talk about construction and buildings a lot here. This is one big key point, right? Okay, here is the bit that they repeated on. Finally, here normally there isn't a lot because this is more a section where they brag, and they're in whole right to do so. The companies should brag about stuff as well. So it's good that I bring it up here, but normally there wouldn't be too much information around here. Other than that, they underline this possibility to shape Alaska with your own ideas. So that kind of information could be useful, but we already kind of have it listed down somewhere. So we can speak about that later. Okay, so we've gone through that. Obviously, here we have that information about it being construction, real estate, and SaaS. So I'll actually copy that over. And finally, we will go to their website. Once again, we are ignoring this information because we pretend like they never ask these questions. We're going to ask them ourselves. I'll go back to the place where we were taken after clicking the apply button. So this is the landing page for that job. And we could go through here and try to understand whether they included any extra information on this particular site that they haven't included in their job posting on Stack Overflow. I will assume at this point that they actually speak of the same thing, just because I want to show you where else we could be looking for this kind of information. Let's go to their main website. Let's see what we find over there. That seems to be primarily for jobs. So see if we can find Alaska themselves. So here we are on the website itself of that company, not on their HR kind of subset. Ooh, everything is in German. Akzeptieren.
Accept, yeah.
So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to try to look through their website itself and also find the same piece of information. Can we find anything else that has been mentioned here on the website that hasn't been mentioned in the job posting or in the website that we were taken to, and add a little bit more to the keywords we've been looking for. So here they talk about financial data. Interesting. So that is one piece of advice information we haven't found in the other place. Manage your costs and profits faster. Yeah. So once again, financial data. What else do they speak about? Obviously, there's a video, so it'd be cool to maybe read through it, check out the other features. Let's see where that takes us. What else they say? Automated documentation. Right. Interesting. See, that hasn't been mentioned in the other place. Obviously, there's a big part of you risking the fact that maybe the job that you're looking at does not have something to do with this particular product. The company could have other products and they could be advertising for a new product that isn't necessarily related to that. But the reason why we just want to scrape it is so that later we can prioritize and ask ourselves, okay, which of these things indeed are going to be useful? So arguably we could make, a break here to remember that this information is coming from their website, not from the job posting itself, right? But we're looking at their products to be able to understand what is it that they really are building. And the reason for that is, yet again, later we'll be able to ask ourselves, hey, have I got anything to do with the products they already are building, right? What is the extra thing that I can highlight in my application, in my cover letter, that has to do with what they already are doing? Automated forecasts. That's interesting to me. See, I'm personally into forecasting data, so that would be a key thing that I could underline. Yet again, hasn't been mentioned in the job posting itself, but I do have experience in that. Yeah, looking through references and testimonials is also a good idea. There, more often, they would potentially mention some of the technologies that are being used in the products that this company particularly develops. So, yet again, another place to be able to get some of that information and scrape some of that off. We're not going to go through watching these right now, but just to mention that it could be there as well. I think we're getting roughly to the end of it. Yep, cool. And let's see if the features subsection tells us anything else. So this is the features, obviously, of the main product that they seem to be developing. Budgets, cost planning. So once again, financial data. Working with some client-facing database. Revenue planning. So all seems to be financial. That seems to be just a repeat from the previous page again. Okay, mobile. They seem to have a mobile team, at least, because it's meant to be available from anywhere. So, okay, that's a little bit extra information we can utilize. Right. So obviously we could follow that with going into various kind of subsections of this company. They have a YouTube channel. They seem to be on LinkedIn. So we could follow the same methodology in other places and try to understand the company even more. I suppose how much you really want to get into the particular company will define how far you want to go with this scraping process. It's all kind of generally up to you. The moment you have already some information that you could be adding, you could argue that you're ready to proceed to the next process, to the next step of this particular process, right? So, okay, now that we have that, as you can see, we just turn all this into just a number of keywords, sort of, just excerpts from their website. And what we want to do now is to think, can we say something about each one of these things? They haven't asked for it, but we know that they work with these things in mind. Like somebody in their company, think about it, sat down and thought, okay, what is company about? What are we really looking for? What would be the most beneficial for our company? And they wrote this somewhere on their website, on the job posting, this has been added. It's clear indication that they're looking for someone with that in mind. They may only say, we believe in DevOps, continuous integration and testing. Sure, they have not listed it under the, your responsibilities or your profile. True. But if you in particular have experience in continuous integration and testing, for instance, why not say it? Why not say, hey, I'm so much more of a fit for a company, not only because I may or may not match, the things that you have right here, but I'm on top of that. I'm more than this. And by understanding and by reading exactly the additional bits that seem like just boring description of a particular company, by reading through their website that, may or may not have something to do with the posting itself, we try to get into these details to be able to underline them later. So what I can, do from this is I can start getting into, okay, when making this sort of a application and when writing the cover letter, I will go through all of these points and I'll try to ask myself, can I say something about it that will increase my chances? So it's clear that, with points like React and JavaScript, well, all you can say is, I know React and JavaScript. I've done that much with it. I built 5, 6, 7 projects with it. Open up a little bit that just a bit more, but there isn't much more that you can say about these things, right? Whilst when it comes to these secondary points, such as, they say, we believe in DevOps, right? Do you have any experience in DevOps? Do you understand DevOps? Do you at least have a basic understanding of it? Have you done testing? What kind of testing have you done? Have you worked as a Scrum team before? Are you familiar with the Scrum terminology? Do you understand what are, stand-ups? Do you... let's see what else we can look into. Here they talk a lot about the exchanging opinion between the employees. We could underline how this is important to us. We can underline why we think we will work well, because to us, a company that indeed respects the employee's opinion is a good company. That's what we're looking for. So to tell them that we think you're good for us is also valid. We don't want to just make them think, oh, you're a good fit for us. Somebody will be reading your cover letter, your CV. Don't just make them think that person will tick all of our boxes. Try to make them also think, that person will be happy for working for us. We want happy employees. We want people that will understand our culture. So if the more you underline as an applicant by saying these kind of things, like, I also care about, the never stop learning attitude. I carry on learning all my life, I have experience with collaborating with, UX UI designers, or I am a UX UI designer myself. Let's see. We are driven by the idea to make better and cheaper real estate available to the society. Never would they ever put it right here. Most companies wouldn't. But why not say something about it? Do you have any experience with real estate at all?
No. But the fact that it points towards improving society is something I can relate to and have experience with.
Good point. Exactly. And if it's not real estate, can we think of like maybe things that were related to it? Have you, I don't know, if you do have any relationship with what they're writing about here, is to underline that, is to say, well, if I happen to, I don't know, have worked for a project that used to be related to construction or roadworks or engineering, I could say that too. I could say, well, maybe not real estate, but I've been around the subject. I know if you speak to me in real estate language, I at least will have some basic understanding of it. And saying that to the employer is, again, would be one of those things that may potentially separate you from everybody else. We're doing that so that, we prepare ourselves for the situation when everything else is equal. You're matching somebody else in your React experience, your CSS experience, your UX, UI experience, your everything else. And they have these two applications and they don't know which one to choose out of the two. Well, by saying stuff like that, in my opinion, you are the one who's stepping forward and saying, well, we will work together better because I care about what you care. I care about construction in this particular case. I care about real estate. I have worked on a SaaS business before. I understand what it takes to build one, or I always wanted to build a SaaS business and I already have some ideas. I understand how the whole process works. This is why we do this. Then they go into the information that we got from their website, the financial data. Do we have any experience with that? Have I ever worked with what? Sure, I love using Excel. I've been building my own financial data in Excel forever. I'm doing all my bookkeeping. I can mention that. I can understand. I can say that I understand the market they're working in. That I'm not going to be complete newbie when I introduce myself to the company. Right? They have a mobile team. It seems like we found from their website. I have experience working as an Android developer. I'm applying right now for a front-end position, but I, in particular, have an experience with Android. I could underline that as well. I could say, well, I'm not going to be completely blank when I go to speak to your mobile team, even though I will be doing the JavaScript development. All of these things to me are key. Just sending a cover letter and saying, I know JavaScript, I know React, I know CSS, I know everything you ask me for, please hire me because I need money or because we'll be a good fit, isn't enough. That's where those cover letters, I think, are for, to open up about the things that they haven't said. So once again, bring it back to here, we are looking at the questions that these guys in particular asked, as if they never asked them. And even if they do ask them, your cover letter, in my opinion, should still go through this whole process, because it takes what? It took me 7 minutes to scrape one website, one application. Now I'll have to turn that into cover letter, one way or another. Might as well make it relevant for these guys, And instead of sending, 50 applications a day, I'll send 7, but 7 solid ones. So 7 ones that I know I have some chances applying, right? So yeah, essentially that's the whole concept. Think about the questions that we've been reviewing right here, and then imagine like if these questions weren't there, and try to come up with questions yourself. What if the question was, do you have any experience with real estate and construction? Do you have any experience with, like, what's your opinion on personal responsibility in a coding company? And then answer that question yourself. Well, I believe, I have experience in that way or another, and open up about it, right? Obviously, cover letters should not be essays. So, it's not necessarily a piece of advice of expanding upon each one of these things. But the next step now would be to ask yourself, okay, what should we write about, and in how much detail, right? One way to go about it would be to indeed speak about it in informal language and open up to proper sentences. But you could also just bullet point things like that. You could have a long bullet point list of why you answer all these questions, why all these keywords are somehow relevant to you, and send that as a cover letter. That's something that's kind of, up to you, I suppose, on the end of, doing an actual application. You probably still want to structure it as if it was a letter, but nonetheless, breaking things down to structured text in, with bullet points, indented even, subsections, it could also be a good idea. So it kind of depends on the particular application that you're going through. But like I say, first step is to prioritize these things and think about, okay, what is the things that they really will probably care for based on what I learned from their job description, from what I know that the application is going to be about, and from what I scraped from it. What is it that this particular company cares for? And write about that.
Awesome. Like proper bespoke.
Very much so. Yes, very much so. So the opposite of copy pasting, I suppose.
Yeah. No, I can see the logic. Yeah, just go for quality over quantity, if it's a company that you genuinely are interested in and want to work for. And obviously if it's less so, then no need to put in as much effort.
Exactly. I mean, so I would say I would always go through the process itself. It's just that I would vary my involvement into the process depending on how much I do want to make that application work out or not.
Yeah.
But given that, there's just, a good number of positions that you could be applying for, a lot of them will be relevant and valuable. It's a good idea to put that extra effort, and make those applications so much more bespoke, to be able to underline those special things that you stand out as compared to everybody else, right? Next thing that is, I think, useful when getting into the zone of sending job applications is to start reusing some of the answers. The things that you'd be reading here and you'll be wanting to answer later can be reused for other applications. It's not uncommon for companies to ask for things like agile development, UI, UX, the open communication, the never stop learning attitude. They will phrase it differently, but almost every company will mention something along the lines of, we have funds available for training. And your answer to this should be, like I say, even though they don't ask for it, to just say, well, I have been learning. I really look forward to it. Not just I look forward to it. Why am I looking forward to this? What is the thing that I want to be learning? How I want to be expanding, et cetera, et cetera. So for many of these things, we could be essentially copy pasting our answers, which is where I would suggest going ahead and actually creating a new document that I myself call personal marketing. And this will be the file in which I'll start writing down these answers. So as I go into, agile development, I'll make a subsection here. I will turn it into a proper heading so I can later, sort by it. And I will write down my answer, or my like I said, the answer to the question has never been asked, my experience, right? And I expand on it for a couple of lines. I will keep that answer right here. I will also use it for this application, but whenever something new comes up, I will bring that up back into this document, and I will start making these subsections. And with each of them, I will have these answers already prepared so that when next time I see a new job application asking for that thing in particular, I already have something that I can refer to. And I don't need to be writing this up again. And this is also the benefit of, the moment you start doing this methodology of not just, copy pasting, but doing it bespoke, each bespoke application you will make will get easier and easier and easier as you do it, because you will have more of these answers already prepared. And then it's just a matter of copy pasting them, reformatting them in a particular way that you may require. And same goes for answering these kind of questions. Describe websites which in your eyes have a good UX and UI. Why do you want to join our product and engineering team? Super generic. That could be for any posting you could be going for. They could be asking these questions. So definitely, starting with, never reply to these questions in here, never ever, because this website goes down and you may have lost all the information you have written down. So let's see if they actually store it as some sort of a local data. This would have hopefully been saved by now. Reopen it, and they do. Good for them. Many websites will not keep your answers here. So always, when you see a question like this, copy it to your personal marketing, turn it into a section, and here answer. Got that. Now, whenever I will see a similar question in the future, I have an answer. Or even if it's slightly different, I have a basis, a template to start from and then carry on, right? So once I have that answer done here, I can then just bring it back and copy paste it, and I'm done, right? So you're protecting yourself against potential websites that just want store your data, whatever it may happen, could happen, your laptop running out of battery, etc., etc. But also getting used to the idea that everything you will write will end up in this personal marketing document. And later you will have these sections here that you can go and refer to, and turning keywords into a cover letter will become easier and easier as you go, because it'll just be a matter of copy pasting some of stuff over here. So as you can see, we are essentially doing copy pasting, but it's a different style of copy pasting. You don't just write one template, dear, sir, madam, I would like to work for you, please hire me, because I'm committed, hardworking, and my biggest flaw is that I am a perfectionist. Isn't that the one? We get into these details that actually are relevant. And the whole process I'm describing is about knowing how to find these details, knowing the mentality you have to come with to be able to looking for these details, the answer the questions that aren't asked mindset. And once you do that, turn that into personal marketing for every job posting you have. And any new question, any new keyword, any new question that you may find that you haven't spoken about yet, turn it into a new subsection. Then when a new job comes in, we will just move over and copy paste, and that's perfectly fine. So actually, awesome. to maybe do that, we could actually look at this other posting that we found before and quickly run through it and try to ask ourselves, questions of, what would we turn into keywords as we read through it. So we will not actually go into making another one of these lists, because we went through that process already. But just so you have a bit more of an understanding of this process itself, we'll read through it and also ask ourselves questions. Where do we see overlap with this first one? Because this is assuming we have already done that. We have already turned it into the scraped list. We turned that into a cover letter. We have our personal marketing document here. And now we're asking ourselves, how useful was that to this new job, right? And to ask ourselves simply, how much reusability is there in this method? And, obviously this just builds up as we go. So, so we could just look into that right now. This one is from YPro Digital. Once again, thank you very much for our sponsors, Alasco and no, they're not. I really hope they don't mind that we do this over their job postings. Yeah, if so the company is called Build It, right? The YPro is I don't know what that is. YPro. Build It and Alasco. In all fairness, Alaska's job posting was already pretty good, so if anything, we would be complimenting them. But now Build It, they're looking for front-end engineer in Edinburgh. And we can find out they're from banking, manufacturing, and retail. So that's already one keyword I'll be looking at, right? Build It is a specialist software engineering consulting organization within YPro Digital. So that'll be one keyword for me. I'll be trying to understand what is the YPro. Help enterprise customers accelerate their digital transformation. Good keyword, right? So we could speak about what do we know about digital transformation and working with enterprise customers in that sense. Through our Velocity consulting practice, okay, so there seemed to be really a consulting company. So there already we can see a little bit of discrepancy between Alasco and this particular job posting, is that these guys also include consulting, rescue at risk, and complex software engineering engagements with targeted interventions. Oh, a lot of confusing keywords. This could mean anything. So we'll go over that maybe later. In addition, our global co-innovation studios are designed to deliver, global, multiple places it seems to be, 51 to 200 people. Interesting. Are designed to deliver end-to-end design, co-creation, professional education, and product development. Okay, also quite generic, but gives us a bit more information on the company as well, or what kind of stuff they do. So there we go. Velocity Consulting. Okay, keyword. So once again, this isn't what we have seen before. Targeted intervention to solve highly complex engineering problems or rescue at-risk engagements by a small group of experts. So essentially, you become a part of a team that goes and fixes people's shit when shit hits the fan. Which obviously, again, is not something we've seen before, but we could say something about this. Have we ever worked in highly complex engineering problems as a team? Have we worked as a consultant before? Have we done any kind of, like putting fires away, Have we done any deadline work that would put us good at a position where we have to, quickly understand some situation, et cetera, right? So good keyword right there. Co-creation studios, ideation, design, training, engineering to product development. So this is quite simply, developing a product and building it. And education. So I guess they also do teaching. Another good keyword. Do we know anything about teaching? Have we been teaching? Do we have any experience with spreading knowledge? And what is our experience there? They seem to be doing it primarily for agile and lean methodologies, but still, any kind of experience we might have in this field could be relevant, whether voluntary or paid or whatnot, right? Just why are we the right candidate for this? So if we're going to be doing the consultative engineering, identify, articulate, influence, and shape the shape of business outcomes through platform solutions across the business and technology landscape and across the cycle from concept through realization into production and back again. Oh, that's a mouthful. Not much to be able to scrape up from here. I suppose the whole process of going from concept through realization into production and back again. So doing, iterative development is something we could be talking about. So here is some keywords that we could be extracting, obviously. What kind of businesses they could be working for, we don't know right now. As far as I can see, well, they are mentioning banking and manufacturing. So maybe we could expand on that in collaboration with what's written here. But in general, it could be any, supposedly. But underlining the things that we can. So the whole process of, taking an idea, taking a business description to a technical description, making that translation is quite important as well. If we know anything about that, let's talk about it. You'll be able to balance the books between technology purism, best practice, and solution fit. Oh my goodness. This sounds like Bible preach. With all respect, build it. I'm sure you guys are great. Collaborative solutioning. We are looking for people who want to work cross-functional teams and want to help others learn how to build them and why they're valuable. Yeah, not much over here. Just generally, we're looking for developers. We could just summarize this. This role may require 75 domestic or international travel, often working directly at clients' locations. Interesting. Very good keyword. We could totally be talking about how we are digital nomads. We're travelers. We've been here and there. We're experienced in working in remote destinations where we speak 2-3 languages, whatever it is, right? It's not asked, but we could totally underline why 75% domestic or international travel in this role is something good for us and why we're a good fit for it. So another good keyword here. Yeah. What will you do? You'll be joining an agile team. First keyword, definitely. Repeating from the previous one, which totally copied even the answer that I started writing over here. Delivering key solutions for the products and services that will drive value for our customers and users. We're looking for engineers who are able to be leaders within their field. Have we ever been a leader? Good keyword. Have we ever led a team, however big it is, right? Good thing to kind of underline as well if we have any experience in team leading, etc. You will be participating in daily stand-ups. Do we know anything about it? Sprint planning sessions. Do we know anything about it? Retrospectives, along with strong Scrum Masters. We know about Agile. Do we have a sub-point about Scrum? Maybe we do. Maybe we could answer that already. Product owners. Have we ever been product owner in a Scrum team? If we do, then we could speak about that right here. You will take these plans and then deliver the solutions using your expertise across JavaScript, React, Redux, Node.js, and Java. Do we have experience with any of these? If yes, then you'll be good to also speak about these. You will have the autonomy. Very good keyword. How autonomous am I? How can I be given responsibility and how do I deliver when given one. So if you have worked on a project on your own, if I have turned specification into a working product, if that process is something I'm more and more confident about, I want to underline that as well. It's not a question, but I think to any employee, it will be important to understand whether they can rely on you or whether you need a nanny or how much of a nanny you'll need. Everybody needs a nanny every now and then. So nothing wrong with admitting that, especially that, we're junior developers right now. We're applying for new jobs. We will need nannies. So it's good to, to have that, said straight away. But then also saying how much of that we require, how much guidance do we need? How much can we do on our own? So the moment you see something like that in a posting, it should essentially be said, written, even if they don't say that. But that little sentence reminds us, let's speak about how autonomous we are and that we can be given responsibility, that we don't need to be, guided and held hand
be
off.
self-managing.
Thank you. Good summary of that. Yeah. You will have the opportunity to create new APIs. Have I created new APIs? What's my experience with that? Have I worked with APIs? Do I understand REST APIs, whatever APIs that may be? Have I done this before? Improve the functionality of various customer-facing products to work on, and we'll work to define product scope around what is going to add the most value for customers. Have we done evaluations? Have we done estimates? Another good question, another good keyword. There are new platforms to build in current systems, as well as defining and building new systems. Okay. We want people to bring their engineering expertise to our already high quality team, find their part to play with the delivery. Helping others out, constantly sharing your knowledge and expanding your knowledge through continuous learning and self-development. We've got that. We already wrote about this. We love learning because we already spoke about it in the other place. So we can definitely use that. You will also bring leadership approach. Again, we spoke about it before. Can we say something about our leadership? An ability to clearly articulate why working in a certain way or introducing a certain technology will be of overall benefit to our customers or as a part of their transformation. If we can say anything about this entire process of, explaining why particular technologies work, why they don't, if we have any experience in convincing, a board of directors or any decision makers into particular decisions, that's also the place we could be underlining these. Also very useful. And we want people to come with the experience of, and we already know this, so not much we could add on that, an agile outlook and experience in a Scrum environment, and a friendly photo of the team of build it. Superb. A little bit of bragging and not much more. So obviously we can go ahead and go with, this is the button that would be looking for.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was going to say it'll fill out your details.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Here is where we also could be finding some of the questions if a company actually needs them. So contrary to how these guys took us to their own website, here we actually have a way to apply directly through Stack Overflow. And like I say, a number of questions could appear here. In this particular case, it doesn't. None of it comes in here. So to be able to add a few of these extra bits through the cover letter is essentially important. When they don't directly ask for a cover letter, I think a good idea would be to send a resume in which the first page is the resume itself, but the following pages are the cover letter for that particular position. Here you're running into a risk of somebody just not wanting a cover letter and really not wanting it and will not read through it. But I think if the stakes are high and if this is a position you really want to be going for, then adding that extra few hours of going through scraping and writing the cover letter itself, and adding it in after the CV, I think is still worth the attempt and the time put into it. But like as you can see, different job description, quite a different job, I would say. This one in particular was a little bit more vague about what they're really expecting and what the company itself is. I think quite simply because their job is a lot broader as a sort of consulting firm, and a development studio. They have a much wider variety of things that they actually work on. So it was harder for them to actually outline these. It would be nice to actually see this kind of information in the company and understand a little bit more of like their process, just as much as this first job underlined things such as that they're what kind of methodologies they use, that what things do they care for as a company. So not just requirements, but a little bit more in-depth and kind of specific on what working with them actually looks like. Well, this one was lacking at a little bit more, but I'm sure that maybe if we look through their website, through their LinkedIn, we could get into finding these answers too, right?
Yeah, because I think the cool thing about the Stack Overflow jobs, more so than the LinkedIn, is you can see the company name, whereas I think a lot of LinkedIn listings are done through agencies. So yeah, you can't you can't dive in as deep as you can using Stack Overflow, for example.
That's right. Yep, that's absolutely true. Yeah. In general, when it comes to LinkedIn, if you get to a point where you've got contacted by a recruiter, there will be a moment, I suppose, in which you can find out a little bit more about the posting. So you can go through the similar process there as well when you are making the application. Not so much about the company itself, but I guess this is also something you can figure out more by simply speaking to the recruiter. Essentially, they will be getting part of your salary for doing the recruitment. So I think it's in all fairness that you can just flood them with some questions about the company itself to be able to scrape that information and turn it into a valuable cover letter later on. So I suppose it's about putting that extra effort to find that information when on LinkedIn is not as directly available, I suppose, as it is in this particular case here, right? But once again, it's more about this mentality of, in no place when applying for this job have we been asked a question. Even when we look at things that is required of us, there isn't really that much that we could be going on with. So I'm asking myself, how do they distinguish what people who they want to work with from people they don't want to be working with? Could be the answer is that they accept a wide variety of developers there, so they don't really care that much. But then it's, I think, safer to assume that they do care about people who they hire. It's just maybe that their the HR or whoever was putting up this job description didn't think about creating these kind of filtering questions so early on. In which case, yet again, so important to look through this, check out what keywords you can find, and try to speak about them. Try to say to this particular job, to this particular employer, why am I different to everybody else who's going to read this? Not because I'm just matching these descriptions, not because there's a number of checkboxes, I know JavaScript, I know React, I know Redux, I know Angular, I know all these things. What else can I say? I really know them. I'm really experienced in Redux. Well, it's hard to gauge, right? So they'll get into looking into your projects. I suppose interviews where this kind of information comes out, but you want to make sure that you do the best job possible at least starting and figuring these things out from the beginning, which to me is by scraping that information, turning it into these questions that you ask yourself, writing a little paragraph about that, and then taking that into, like I say, into a proper bespoke cover letter that's directed at that particular job posting.
Yeah, and I can see, I guess the point is putting this much effort in up front increases the chances of you getting an interview, which then you can embellish even more and set yourself apart. Whereas if you just kept it to the generic, there's just a list of 6 things that they want there, I've done 5 of them.
Exactly.
Then, there's less chance that they're going to invite you to find out more compared to someone who's embellished a bit more.
Correct. And to put it in your own words, you want to be a slutty fish. You want to. For those of you not understanding what we're saying, Sam not long ago was comparing himself to being a slutty fish that's trying to wiggle its tail to be able to be fished out of a pond with many other fishes. And we're considering, how can you be the slutty fish? How can you turn yourself more into a slutty fish? Well, this is exactly what we're talking about. Yeah, distinguish yourself from the others. Totally. Yeah.
Link to the video up here. I never know which side it is.
Yeah, it will be something like that. Cool. I mean, this is in general the piece of advice that I have when it comes to job postings and cover letters. So we reviewed the CVs last time. We spoke about how to make sure that works. Now this is the second part that I feel sometimes gets neglected, omitted. I mean, I suppose the reason I wanted to cover this with you, because now you're getting into the stage of potentially looking at the job postings, I didn't want you to just go ahead with the mentality of, okay, well, the CV is where I speak, and my portfolio will speak through me. There are all these different paths that you can take to be able to communicate with that other person who'll be sitting somewhere there. We already spoke about a lot about this in the CV video when we reviewed things like readability, consistency, whether to put a photo with it or not, what kind of things to put in there, what details to include. So this is a slightly different way of communicating with them, right? Like that was a lot more technical back there. Also, another reason was why we don't really expand on things such as, I'm really good at React, because that's sort of meant to be said in the CV. So here we're looking at this other form of communication that we want to be distinguishing ourselves even more so from everybody else who will be sending these through. right? I suppose if every person did that, then this piece of advice will no longer be valid because everybody's CV would be bespoke and like that, which I thoroughly hope so, because probably job recruitment will become a little bit easier if we had all that information laid out at the beginning. But given that, like I say, I think most people will neglect that, will omit that extra process of scraping through the information that can be found in job posting, in the website, in the LinkedIn, wherever it can be, whatever media you can find about the particular company. Doing so will put you in an advantageous position, as long as you're otherwise equal. Of course, if somebody comes in with higher experience, would just better fit, there wouldn't be anything you can do either way. So you're starting from the basis of I am as good as somebody else right now. Make that assumption, right? If I am as good as somebody else, well, then there's going to be a decision made by somebody else. I want to provide as many things as I can right now so that the decision made is in my favor. How can I do that? How can I increase that likelihood? It's not about guaranteeing that you will succeed. It's about increasing the likelihood that it may happen, right? And since I have no job right now, I need to apply. Well, I will spend my time making those applications really fucking good. And I think that putting a concrete, bespoke cover letter is a good way to do so. Yeah. I mean, does that make sense anyway? What we just got over? Because I feel like I've been talking for a good hour now. How do you see this?
It's been solid information. I'm like, I've made a lot of notes and just learned so much. And I guess the old me I would have done a cover letter, but I would have kept it somewhat bespoke. I would have found three points of, here's what I think you're looking for and here's evidence of me doing it. But just the detail that you've gone into here and where to look for stuff and how to utilize the information available in your favor. Like you say, it's not guaranteeing it, but it's definitely increasing chances. Like it's a great mindset shift to have, because like you say, sometimes they might not even ask for a cover letter, but that's what's going to set you apart. And even if there is someone else who's gone through the same process, their answers are going to be different because their experience will be different.
Correct.
So it's not as if you lose anything by doing it.
No, totally.
Just that idea of the personal marketing document as well. That's something I hadn't really considered. And it's almost like a bit like a housing database, which you can admittedly copy and paste from, but you've still got the effort you've got the raw material to make a bespoke effort each time. Correct. Because the combinations will be different, maybe.
Correct.
So as someone who looks to improve workflows and, if I'm honest, make less work for myself. And I always say I've said it to my parents from day one, it's not laziness, it's efficiency. And I think that whole process of having that personal marketing document, that's efficient.
Yeah.
You could look at it being lazy because you're doing less work, but no, because you've thought about the process and made it easier for next time. And I love that. That's something I'll definitely be doing. So thank you for epic wisdom and for running through this and seeing what to look for. I mean, there's a lot of sentences in there which I probably wouldn't have picked out, because initially I'd be looking at tech-based keywords like the languages and the frameworks, but you've touched upon things which make sense now, but an hour or two ago I probably would have thought I would have just skimmed that sentence. But I can see, even just looking through those two listings, you can see some of the patterns that appear and you think, oh yeah, they mentioned that in that other one, so maybe that is a thing that's worth me looking at and having a response to the questions that they haven't yet asked, which again is a great way of looking at it. So super happy with that, mate. That's really, really helpful.
Cool.
Not just for me, but for anyone who's watching this. This is like, it's mint. It's super useful. Thank you.
No, good, man. I'm glad you're seeing it this way. I underlined it a number of times already. I'll say it again. This is just what I think worked for me, and it makes sense to me, right? When I think about the recruitment process, I don't want to look at a website. I want to look at a person who's going to read what is going to be delivered to them, and I want to feel how that person feels. So the job application isn't filling in forms. The job application is convincing someone else to believe in what you believe. And what you believe is, I'm the best fucking guy for the job, or I'm the best girl for the job. I want to convince a person to something else. I don't want to fill in a form, right? That's the principle that this is coming from. So whilst this isn't official, recruitment advice, I feel it makes sense when I really think about this, that the way to convince someone is provide them with the appropriate information, making sure the information is available for them if they need it. If they don't read it, fine. But I want to make sure that if I care for the job, I want to provide the information that is required. And it worked. I honestly have to say it worked for me. It worked for a number of my friends already. I do sincerely hope that it's going to work for you, Sam. If you're watching this video right now and you just learned this method too, then I hope it works for you too. If you have any questions, if anybody would have any questions or comments, or you disagree with some of the points that I made or Sam made, during these last videos, then we'd love to learn more about this.
Yeah.
By no means this is to say that this is the best method in the world. It's more about improvement. So it's, the communication and the discussion here is definitely necessary to make this even better. No, but like you say, it's good that you're looking at it this way. I'm like I say, I'm only hoping that it will help you out. Yeah. And I mean, what happens now? We're pretty much ready to kick into the job search, I think. Because we did your CV, we went over this, the cover letter building. The concept of personal marketing is something you already know about. I guess looking for first job postings now and trying to apply to a few jobs, or how do you feel?
Excited. I think it does, because I think we've put months of effort into getting to this stage, and I think I feel a lot more prepared going, now I've got a decent portfolio, I've got decent projects, presented well, I've got a CV that's ready to rock. And with this sort of tactical knowledge on how to apply, I'm feeling, excited, because I think I'm at that stage now. I just want to get started. I want to join a team and get involved and start utilizing this knowledge that I've just been learning for 9-10 months. So, I'm also under no illusions that it's going to be an easy part of the journey. But I'm just ready to get cracking. I'm at that stage now. It's like, come on, let's get a job already, and let's just start the next phase. Start the next phase of, I guess the never-ending coding journey. Right.
Yeah. Then you're going to get a job, and there'll be another set of things that we could be talking about then, right?
Exactly.
So this could be going forever.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Because I mean, even just sort of recently, I've been looking at. I mean, I'm somewhat jumping ahead of myself, but tips to be a good junior developer, and then how do you transition from a junior to a mid? What's involved with all of that? So that's all on my horizon going forward, which I'll be doing anyway. So. I guess the next stage is to get that junior position and then start thinking about those questions. So I think thanks to your help, and thanks to the hours that I've put in my end as well as your hours, I feel like I'm prepared for this next phase of the journey, which is getting a job.
Cool. Yeah, there's a big part of me that also thinks, once we start applying, we will figure out the things that actually are missing still. How we've for a while been talking about this, that we should start applying early just to get a feel of what's still missing. And my answer to that frequently was, the moment we get to a point when we don't know what else to catch up on, that will be true. So we are at the point where we don't know what to catch up on. We start looking at CVs and cover letters, so ready to start applying. And indeed, it may happen that once we get to job applications, there will be more things to be catching up on. So we could well just come back to talking about code, talking about catching up with some of these things and how that go. But definitely more ready than anything. I probably said that to you before, but I feel very confident in the skill you have. Obviously their experience isn't quite there yet, but you've got a good mentality when it comes to programming, and definitely the right approach into tackling some of these problems. Some of the projects you did already were quite impressive, even to me, when I thought they would have taken you a few weeks. They took you only a few days, and so you're definitely in a good spot. Being ready for, like I say, for new information coming in and having to catch up on some new other things, I suppose. But at the same time, being confident that I think you're a person who could be easily hired now and could work as a junior developer in a company and carry on, progressing from there and expanding from there. Like you said, it may be a long process, right? It could take a while. Like essentially, it almost feels like, okay, we got to the end, right? Now we can almost celebrate. But the truth is, this is only the beginning, right? This is when actually the fun arguably not so much fun starts, and we start applying and get rejected. So getting used to that concept as well is important. I know you're excellent at, at managing these kind of expectations. And I know that to you, it's going to be easier to handle these kind of situations. But, I think it's worth saying that job application process it's about failing 99% of the times and succeeding once. So going into it with the mentality of, I'm looking forward to getting hired, cannot, to go there without understanding I will be failing a ton in that process may cause some pain in the future, right? So I think the reason I'm saying it right now is to just, once again, highlight the fact that it's a process of failing a lot. That's what job application is about. It's about not being good enough for a good while. And we don't like being bad at stuff. We don't like not being good enough. We don't like failing, as humans. So it's an important, I think, like psychological almost exercise, job application, to be able to come to it with the right approach and right mentality and how to handle these things. Again, maybe not something I'm a specialist on, and quite arguably, you would be much better at giving this advice right now than I am. How to handle rejection, how to handle situations like that, right? So, once again, you could be leading the next call we have, just speaking about how to handle situations like that if they happen. But I think it's important understanding the coupling ourselves from the results of our applications, so that we don't think that we're worth less just because we haven't been accepted. The reasons for why we could be not accepted could be so many, and trying to come up with why we have been accepted in our head will only lead to frustration and pain. Therefore, I think just going into the process, now that we're going to be starting it, I feel it's relevant we say it, going into the process with the right mindset is so crucial. So crucial to know that this is a failing process. It's a process of just getting rejected over and over again, not trying to dig into the reasons and all that, right? For why we could be failing in the future. But like I say, you should be sharing the knowledge here, not me, I suppose.
No, it's interesting. Yeah, because I think I'll have experience and knowledge of how to handle that. I'd say more so than others, because that's what I did for a couple of years. For those who haven't ever checked my background, like I've been doing coaching and personal development for the last sort of 5 years. So handling rejection and understanding how to, you said decouple, the results from how you see yourself. It's again something that probably gets overlooked when we talk about applying for jobs. Is that. And again, I keep going back to how much I've learned about the mindset of this journey. It's not just about learning code. It's about how you handle yourself mentally upstairs.
Totally.
Whilst you're learning, whilst you're doing the job applications, whilst you get rejections. So although I've not done that in this setting yet, I'm sure I'll be learning more about how to handle, these emotions. So I'm also looking forward to that, because although the mental side has been super tough for me because it's new territory, I've learned so much and come out the other side with new abilities to manage said emotions, which I didn't have a couple of months ago. Even though I'm a coach and I help other people with theirs, I'd never really had that first-hand experience of
interesting
that kind of stuff. So I'm learning more about psychology, my own mind state, as well as software and the like. So I love it. I love learning new stuff. So
no, good. You put it in a really good way. That it's so much more than just learning coding. Something you never think about, right? Like you go into, I want to learn coding. First thing in your mind is, I will need to learn how to write code. But it's so much more than that, isn't it? Like by the end of the journey, you realize that you haven't grown just in one place. You've grown in so many other places. How many online courses teach you these things? How many courses will get into talking about these kind of things? I think that's maybe one of the missing links that some developers would just, run into this, thinking that learning coding is literally about learning, to code.
Yeah.
It's almost like saying, learning how to cook doesn't involve tasting things. If you don't know what tastes are, if you don't know how to distinguish things from each other, you are cooking, but you need to know so much more. You have to understand customers. You need to understand the experience of eating, right? Like it's not just about cutting, frying, serving. It's the same here, right? Coding isn't just about coding. It's about so many more things, right?
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Yeah. Fascinating. Love it, mate.
Cool.
Awesome.
All right. Well, take it from where you need to get, take it to, from here. I suppose, next time we talk, we'll be, reviewing how that progress is going, how the jobs are coming through. If there are any things you want to, ask me in the meantime, you want to talk about, then, obviously ping me and I'll be happy to cover. I suppose if rejections do come, then, we could have another episode talking about that and, indeed, and how you're feeling during that process. How is the process of job applications generally, going for you? And we'll just see, time will tell. Maybe only last piece of advice I will leave you with here that I think helped me a lot. And again, helped a lot of people a lot that I kind of mentored, during the job application, I suppose, is the quote that goes, when looking for a job, the job application itself is your job. Therefore, when I apply for jobs, I do 8 hours of applications a day, Monday to Friday. This is my job, looking for a job. It's easy to kind of think, oh, I'm unemployed, therefore, well, I'll just do a little bit of it in the meantime. If your mentality is ready for 8 hours of work, a day, Monday to Friday, once you find the job, what's preventing you from putting all these hours to find that right job and to write these cover letters, to polish your CV, to make a thorough research? Naturally, there may be a moment when you get to a point when there just isn't much more you can apply for. That does happen, but new job postings, come up almost, indefinitely every month. There's always something new. So to dedicate that time in there, I think it's part of that mentality too, to understand that, your job now, Sam Chilcott, officially, you're not only a software developer, you're a person looking for a job. And going into it with that mentality helps too, I think, to know that this is just the employment you have, the voluntary employment, but it's an employment. Taking it seriously is key.
I like it, yeah. Good paradigm to look at it through. Yeah. Cool. Noted.
All right, Sam, I think that'll be it for today.
Splendid. No, mate, that's amazing. I'm just looking at my notes now and I've learned so much. I just, as ever, super grateful for our chats and your guidance. And I think, it's just your wisdom and experience as well. Although we have talked about technical stuff along the journey, it's because you've been through this process that you're passing those experiences down. And like you say, you're not telling people how, it should be done this way, but it's like, this is what worked for me. And that's kind of how it relates to coaching as well. Coaching isn't about telling people what to do. It's sort of asking them where they want to go and then helping them figure out how to do it. I like your approach mentoring and coaching do have a lot of similarities. So I appreciate hearing about your experiences and what worked for you. And although I take it all in high regard, I'm also aware that some of it might not work out, but that's cool because that's
absolutely
part of the disclaimer anyway. So
absolutely.
Yes. Thank you again, mate. Really appreciate it.
No worries. Cool, man.
Cool.
Another awkward ending. Ready for it? All right, bro. I'll catch you in a couple of weeks.
Okay, mate.
Perfect.
Catch you again soon.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.